Scott Johnston.
Good morning. Hooga! Welcome to DockerCon Day 2. Before we jump into it, did you enjoy Day 1? Right? We had great keynote with the Kubernetes announcements. We had great customer stories throughout the user track, as well as yesterday in the keynote, MetLife. We had sessions and the exhibition hall and the hallway track. And of course, how about the DockerCon party? Did you have a good time at the DockerCon party? Yeah? Looks like it took out about half of you, but hopefully they'll wander in over the morning. We want to spend a little time this morning talking with you about Modernization Journey through partnership. And it's really trying to get to the question, where to start? Where to start when you're figuring out a new technology and how to apply that technology to your business. Because it can be daunting. The rate of new technology innovation is only increasing. At every layer in the stack, there seem to be multiple options begging to be investigated and tweaked and evaluated. And of course, it seems like every day there's a bright, shiny new thing appearing on Hacker News, in a tech blog somewhere, or on GitHub. So what do? Where do you start? We have found that successful modernization journeys start with you and your team. They start with your existing skills, your existing infrastructure, your existing processes, and your existing applications. And then figuring out how to apply those existing things using the new technology and apply them to new initiatives and solving problems for your business. And you've been very vocal about what types of initiatives and challenges your businesses face. Most of you have shared with us that in your organizations you have a strong mandate to get to the cloud as soon as possible. And that the apps that you're building or the tools you're developing for those applications must enable those apps to be deployed on-premise, in the cloud, and increasingly simultaneously to multiple clouds. As Steve said yesterday, every company has to become a software company. And that's regardless of whether you're a manufacturing company, retail, healthcare, media. Software, the ability to ship software, is becoming a core capability of those organizations. And you and your teams have told us that your companies are asking you to ship faster. And yet what we see across all industries is that greater than 50% of companies can only release once every 2 months. And often it takes longer to get a release out. And so it's no surprise that these organizations, almost 80% of them, are saying that increasing their software velocity is a top IT priority for them in the coming years. And finally, cloud-ready apps are important. Shipping faster is important. But it's not going to get far if it's not secure. And in fact, 60% of organizations are saying that security concerns is what's slowing down their cloud initiatives. So you and your teams tell us that you see and are participating in trying to move these new initiatives forward. You're trying to innovate and help your organizations. But it's hard. It's really hard. And it's because there's a lot of legacy that you have to deal with. Legacy systems, legacy applications, and those need to be maintained patched, updated, managed, on and on and on. And as a result, 80% of the budget is consumed by those legacy systems, leaving not a lot left over for innovation, for new initiatives, for having an impact on the top line, on the growth of the business. So given this tension between new initiatives, new potential innovation, and the realities of the budget, how can you and your team help your organization achieve its priorities? And do so with your existing skills, your existing infrastructure, your existing applications, without big forklift upgrades or complete rip and replace of your stacks. This is exactly why we developed and launched the Modernized Traditional Applications Proof of Concept program. As the name POC suggests, it takes one legacy app, .NET Windows, Java Linux, makes that app more portable, more agile, more secure, in 5 days without changing the code. It's a prescriptive, turnkey program consisting of partner consulting services, Docker Enterprise Edition software, and partner infrastructure that together with you, we identify the target application, we containerize and incorporate it into a secure software supply chain, and then we deploy and manage it on partner infrastructure. And because you and your team have asked us for full solutions, not point technologies, MTA is a program we built together with partners who complement Docker Enterprise Edition with their own services, software, and infrastructure. All right, so what are the results? We're really pleased to share that after 12 months, for those legacy applications, .NET Windows, Java Linux, that meet our criteria, we've been able to successfully modernize 100% of the time. We've never failed at modernizing a customer's legacy application. And the impact of that has been pretty exciting. MTA customers have told us that their modernized legacy apps that they've made hybrid cloud ready without changing a line of source. Our favorite example, this is the record to date, 12-year-old application being managed by a US state government agency was .NET 2.0. That's 2005, right? 2005 application. They modernized it, put it under management of Docker Enterprise Edition, and deployed it to the cloud, Azure in this case, without changing a single line of source. In terms of agility, MTA customers have shared with us that they're able to at least double the frequency with which they ship software. And again, many of them go much faster than that, see much greater improvements than that. For example, a large US mortgage broker, again, .NET Windows application. Before modernization, they were shipping about once a month. After modernization, they're shipping 12 times a month. They accelerated 12x as a result of modernization. And finally, security. MTA customers that have modernized their apps see improved isolation as a result of that application now being encapsulated inside a Docker container, and improved application integrity as a result of that image now being part of a secure software supply chain and being scanned and signed on every update at every step in the supply chain. And if that's not enough, MTA customers report, on average, They're seeing the total cost of ownership of these applications, once modernized, cut in half. Thank you. Thank you. And you're seeing some customers go much further or see much greater results. For example, yesterday in the keynote, you heard Jeff from MetLife share that as a result of modernization of his Java stack, they're going to see 66% reduction in the total cost of ownership, saving them tens of millions of dollars. All right, who's ready for a demo? All right. So we saw our modernization demo team yesterday. We saw them modernize a legacy app and make it more agile and more portable. Let's check back in with our team and see how they deal with a last-minute security request. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Ashwini and Riaz from Docker.
Oh, I'm getting a call. Huh. All right. Hello?
Hello, Ashwini. Did you see that Ben pushed the application to staging yesterday?
Yeah.
I'm going to need you to deploy to our cloud production environment as soon as possible.
Okay.
Also, keep in mind this absolutely needs to be fully compliant with the BSI-C5 regulation. The pistol will be audited as soon as we're live.
Okay.
Thanks, bye.
Bye. All right. BSI, cloud, production. I think I got it. Ever since we've started using Docker, I have been a stress-free ops engineer. Deploying this app to production in the cloud is going to be easy.
Did I hear easy? This application is going to be audited as soon as it's deployed. The pester has to be fully compliant with BSI Cloud Computing Compliance Controls Catalog. Sounds like you need the help from the security team on this one.
Please, Riaz, Mr. Security Engineer. I think the ops team has got it. With Docker EE, it's super easy to set up secure clusters such that most of the features are set up by default right out of the box.
Really? Not sure I believe you here. Does it use authenticated and encrypted networks between nodes?
Obviously, weren't you paying attention last DockerCon? With Docker EE, it's set up such that all node-to-node traffic is routed via mutual TLS by default.
Okay, all right, fine. But I bet that it doesn't handle access control in a properly BSI C5 compliant way. Ooh, it is so hard to configure correctly against the compliance, and these data privacy laws are very strict.
You're right, but fortunately, with the latest release of Docker EE, it's really easy to set up access-based controls. And actually, let me just show you.
Okay.
I'm going to log into Docker EE. Let's see. Let's take a look at roles. So these roles up here are here by default that define permissions in the cluster. And I've created a special one called BSI C5 to make sure that we meet our compliance policies. Also, these make sure that no user is able to exfiltrate data out of any container.
Oh, okay, I get it. So we have a custom BSI C5 access control role just that enforced across our entire production cluster.
Yep.
That is awesome. All right, fine. You've convinced me. So I guess you'll only need me to sign the application image that we're deploying today?
Sign. What do you mean sign? Do we need a pen or something?
No, sign the images cryptographically, of course.
Oh.
Our production cluster actually has a policy that ensures that all images that are pulled or deployed have been signed off.
Huh. All right. Well, do you want to show me how?
Sure. The new Docker Trust command makes it super easy. Here. I have my shell here where I have Docker installed, and all I'm going to do is, on the image that we pulled earlier, run docker trust sign on our image. So we have DTR prod 2.0 Germany. Oops, need a space. There we go. Perfect. Docker Trust will make sure that the image is actually pushed to our registry and then ask me to sign with my super secret password for the signing key. And there we go, successfully signed. Now we can check that we actually signed the right image with Docker Trust View on the same image and see the signatures. See, we have the 2.0 Germany tag signed off by the security team.
Wow, this also looks super user-friendly. So, well, wait, now that we have the image signed off, what's next?
Here, let's double check that the policy for signed images is correctly configured in our cluster. So we'll go to the admin settings, Docker Content Trust, and here we are. We have a policy to only run signed images across our cluster that have been signed off by the security team.
Oh, I get it. So basically, no image that hasn't been blessed by the security team can be pulled or deployed in production. Talk about a secure supply chain. This is awesome.
And easy. All right, I think everyone is waiting to buy pets from our online store. Let's deploy this.
All right. Let me create a new tab. Okay. Let me create a new stack. I am going to upload a stack file. And let me give it a name. And let's select the services mode. Here we go. This shouldn't take that long.
Okay, so to recap, we verified that we were BSI C5 compliant by ensuring we have mutual TLS between nodes, and we created a custom access control role just for BSI C5.
And we cryptographically signed the image to make sure that it meets our signing policies. Well, I think we're live. Do you want to take a look?
Sure.
All right. Let's look at the running services. Here's Pet Store Web. And let's enter the store. Here we go.
Yep, looks like our modernized application is running securely on Docker EE in the cloud and in production.
Yeah.
Wow, what an incredible 2 days. Congratulations on bringing the pet store to production. With all this demand, we should really think about ways we can improve the app and deliver more value to our customers.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So Ben and I have been brainstorming a ton of ideas that we'd love to show you. Come on. Oh, and happy pet shopping, everyone.
Did you see that? Did you see that? A legacy application, Java app, modernized, made BSI C5 compliant, live on stage here. Where else are you going to see that? Nowhere. Nowhere. So Christy, our intrepid consulting partner, nicely summarized the journey the modernization demo team had been on these 2 days. And it's a journey we've designed over the last 12 months together with you and our partners. And based on your feedback, we've designed the journey to be incremental, non-disruptive, and one in which you and your team control what you modernize and how fast you modernize. And MTA customers have told us that this is very different from other approaches in the market. It's different because other approaches require your team to go off and get retrained, sometimes for months. Other approaches require refactoring the app, re-architecting the app, recoding the app. And when faced with that, these initiatives can go on for months, if not years, before you see any sort of material return, any sort of quantifiable result, and honestly, any feedback to determine whether or not this initiative is on the right track or not. And that obviously can create a lot of risk for such initiatives. The Docker MTA approach to modernization is fundamentally different. It's focused on incremental investment with a quick time to value. And in fact, the MTA POC, the first step of a multi-step modernization approach, gives you quantified results in 5 days. And each subsequent step is similarly designed such that incremental investment gives you a milestone that is quantified and measurable so that you can share that with your internal stakeholders and that you and your team can determine whether or not you're on the right path. We would like to share more details about this approach with you. So please join me in welcoming to the stage Ian Gray and Brandon Royal from Docker.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. So, we heard a great introduction to modernizing traditional apps and Docker's approach from Scott, the engineering team. That was a perfect example of adding security to a legacy app, right? And then yesterday, from JetLife? Who's JetLife? From Jeff at MetLife, we saw a real-life example. Thank you, guys. I always start with a joke. From Jeff at MetLife, who I'll have to apologize to later, we saw a real-life example of modernizing an application. So it was a great start. So let's just recap Docker's approach to modernizing apps. It's incremental. It's easy to start. There are defined and measurable milestones along the way. It's non-disruptive, so there's no need to crack open the source code of that first application to get started with the journey. There's no need to take your organization on a transformation journey to start, right? You don't need to refactor that application just to get it onto our platform. And then, as Scott mentioned, it's based upon customer-defined innovation. You continue to innovate those apps at your own pace based upon your business requirements. So over the past year, we've worked with many customers on MTA engagements within our team. And actually, many of you that we've worked with have joined us here this week, and it's great to see you all. And you've helped us define a set of repeatable processes and a set of methodologies that support the MTA journey. And this is a journey that's enabled by Docker Enterprise Edition, and it's supported by all the partners that Scott mentioned earlier. And those partners are key to this journey. So we're excited to share that journey with you today. We're going to get into some details of methodologies. But at a high level, it starts with the proof of concept stage. And this is a proof of concept that focuses not just on the technical aspects, but also on the business returns associated with that modernizing that first app. We then go on and take that first application fully into production. So very quickly, you can show the business value, you can show the business returns to the rest of your organization. And then we scale it, right? So you've got your first app in production. We then look at the next 10 or the next 100 and applications beyond that, and we scale. And then finally, we continue to innovate that app, again, at your pace. And as this shows, you can actually start that innovation earlier in the process if your business demands dictate. But the key thing here is done at your pace. So what Brandon and I are going to do over the next few minutes, we're going to drill into each of those 4 stages in a bit more detail. We'll give you a flavor of the methodologies that we're using to help customers along that journey. And we'll throw in some examples from customers that we've experienced over the past year along the way. So as I mentioned before, it starts with a proof of concept stage. And that illustrates both the technical and the business value of modernizing an application. And in common with other stages that you'll see later, it starts with an assessment phase. And there's a couple of things we want to get done here. Firstly, we're going to choose that first app to be modernized. And from our experience with customers, that's usually a traditional Java app on Linux, or it's a .NET app on Windows. And then secondly, we're going to define success criteria for the POC, and this is really important. And our initial customers, those success criteria are usually defined in terms of targets for operational efficiency improvements, or, as Scott mentioned earlier, increases in the release cadence of your application. Or it could be merely a more effective and efficient way to get security patches applied to your environment in a consistent way. The important thing here is that we actually define those success criteria, and we can come back and revisit them at the end of the POC. So you've selected your first app, you then containerize it, you deploy it on your infrastructure of choice. That can be on-prem, or as we saw from Jeff at MetLife, MetLife used this as an opportunity to get that application in the cloud, the Azure cloud in their case, for the first time. And this process takes no more than 5 days. And actually, we've worked with a lot of customers where they've done that first application a lot faster than 5 days. And then customers normally go through that first cycle maybe 2 or 3 more times with other applications, really just to kind of embed the learning of going through that within their teams. Again, looking at Jeff's team at MetLife, they had a suite of Java applications running on WebSphere. And in the POC stage, we actually worked with them to take several of those applications through to deployment. OK, so we wrap up the POC stage by moving to measurement. So we go back to those business criteria that we defined at the start, and we make sure that first of all, we've achieved them. And then secondly, we give you measurable results that you can distribute and discuss and show to your stakeholder teams. And importantly, we also use this as an opportunity to build an initial ROI model that helps you assess the benefits of applying MTA to similar apps within your business. So that's the POC. We then move on to the next stage, and I'm going to hand over to Brandon, who will take you through that in more detail.
Thanks, Ian. So as Ian mentioned, there's a lot of learnings from the POC process that we can bring into our next major step. And the primary objective of this is to take that first application or the first handful of applications and bring them directly into production. Now, I know what a lot of you are probably thinking right now. This is a really significant step, requires coordination across development, operations, security. It requires a different way of thinking about your application deployment process for traditional kinds of applications. So appreciating this, we've developed a detailed process to help you and your customers and partners get there faster. And essentially what it means is it's broken down into 2 interdependent steps. First, there's the application modernization workstream. And this is the process that you go through for each one of your applications, from early assessment and identification all the way through to go live and measure. And then there's the foundations on which that process ultimately depends. So let's dig into the application modernization workstream in just a little bit more detail. So first off, you'll notice some immediate similarities with the POC process Ian was just describing a moment ago. But bear in mind, baked into each one of these steps, there's a lot more detail. For example, for assess, it's not only about understanding the technical dependencies and fit of that application, it's about understanding the organizational dependencies. It's about understanding the current deployment process and the pain points around that process. For containerization, it's not just as simple as containerizing the app. It's about building a base image strategy that you can utilize for this application and applications in the future. And then for measurement, certainly we want to measure against those KPIs that Ian was mentioning in the POC process, but we also need to measure against the overarching objectives for bringing this application into production in the first place. Now, unique to this process, we have operationalize, testing and acceptance, and go live. And operationalizing is really about building an operating model for our application. We can use that to build out application-level SLAs, build out an updating strategy, as well as a deployment strategy. For testing and acceptance, this is about implementing a validation and testing strategy on top of what you have for your traditional applications today. And we realize there's some work to do with traditional applications when it comes to automated testing. But the real value is taking that testing and building it into an existing deployment pipeline for your traditional app. And then last is go live. And this is all about execution of your release strategy. Now, this is where we see a ton of value. Our customers see a lot of value with the Docker Enterprise platform. As Scott mentioned, we see customers going from days and weeks to deploy their application down to just hours and minutes. It's also important here to introduce things like retrospectives. Since this is the process that we're going to use for this and additional applications, we want to continually improve this process over time. Now let's take a look at that foundation. Now, first of all, our customers have told us loud and clear they cannot rip out their foundations in order to modernize their traditional applications. You can't rip out your infrastructure. You can't replace all your governance. You need to use what you already have in place. So that's what this process is all about. It's adapting to the foundations you already have for your traditional applications. So for example, in terms of governance. Now, governance is a set of processes, policies, and standards for supporting a smooth and secure and consistent deployment of your containerized traditional applications. We saw in the last demo how Docker Enterprise can easily adapt to the requirements of your application when it comes to security compliance. Other things that are included in governance are things like application level SLAs, internal training, support, documentation. Now for platform. Now platform, of course, is about deploying Docker Enterprise, but it's about deploying Docker Enterprise for all of the environments that are relevant for your application, from dev all the way into production. Now, other things you need to consider, of course, are your underlying infrastructure, whether that's your on-prem, your cloud, your hybrid. But more importantly, we see customers having to integrate with the process and tooling around how you deploy that infrastructure. So looking at things like how do you address the security infrastructure or the process and protocols around security for your infrastructure? How do you address the high availability requirements for your application? And how do you actually manage the cluster, which now, of course, is much easier with a single cluster type that supports both Swarm and Kubernetes on Docker Enterprise. And then last is toolchain. So toolchain is about integrating with your existing deployment pipeline that you have, no matter how simple or sophisticated that pipeline might be. Whether it's a set of scripts that you're using to deploy your application or a fully implemented CI/CD pipeline, we want to build on top of what you already have. An example would be implementing something like content trust or security scanning for catching those vulnerabilities of your base images before they move into production. Now, we mentioned the primary objective of this step is to bring that application into production, but hopefully it's clear that it's much more than that. It's about building a repeatable process and a foundation that we can use to continue to accelerate the onboarding of additional applications. And while mileage may vary, a lot of the enterprise customers that have gone through this process have got their apps into production in as little as 3 months. So to talk a little bit more about how we continue to accelerate this process, I'm going to hand it back to Ian.
Thank you, Brandon. All right. So now we got the first applications into production, a major step. It's time to move to scaling. As I said before, this is where we take tens, hundreds of applications and beyond into the production platform. And the typical way we've seen our customers approach this is to create classes of applications, and those classes or those applications have common characteristics. For example, Northern Trust defined their classes along 2 dimensions. One was the nature of the app, so the framework associated with a particular app. The second one was a measure of the level of complexity of those applications. And with those classes defined, we then define phases, and we move those phases through the work streams. And that's how we get the flywheel spinning and get more and more applications moved into production. It's also important to note that the foundation level that Brandon described also continues to evolve as you move more applications into production. So to give you a simple example of that, first time you take a .NET app into production, your platform level and your toolchain level will obviously evolve to accommodate the requirements of those Windows apps. Similarly, it's likely that those Windows applications will have certain security characteristics, so you'll typically update your governance policies to accommodate the needs of those Windows applications. So there's a gradual evolution of that foundation as you go through these phases. And at this point in the process, when you've gone through a few of those phases, you've essentially created a center of excellence for workstream modernization or for application modernization within your organization. And this is an approach we've seen a lot of our customers take. For example, Societe Generale and PayPal, both of whom are actually with us this week, they've created centers of excellence for app modernization within their organization. And those subject matter experts can help onboard new teams and new applications faster. They can define best practices across the organization for how to do this. So we found that to be a really good accelerant of this process within those companies. So the final stage of the process defines the future path for your application. And fundamentally, by containerizing, by starting the process by containerizing your app, you're now set up to innovate further and innovate faster. And there are a lot of available options here. The future path for an app might be just to maintain that application in its containerized form. We work with a large life sciences company who have a really big legacy billing application that's mission critical to their business. We went through this journey with them. Their goal was basically to maintain that app, to make sure it always had the latest security patches, it always had the latest critical patches for it. So maintenance was essentially their endpoint in the journey. The other customers, MetLife, for example, used that as an opportunity to deploy to cloud. Other customers have started the process of refactoring application or taking it on a journey to disaggregating as a set of microservices. There are lots of available options here. But really, the decision to continue innovating and the pace at which you do so is entirely your choice. Okay, so we've taken you through. We've given you a feel for some of the methodologies we use in this process. Hopefully, we've given you some sense of what customers have done at each stage along the way. So I think it's time we move to a real-life customer example here, or an end-to-end customer example. And this is a great example because going back to the 3 points that we mentioned earlier, this is truly an incremental approach. It was non-disruptive to the business. And it's a great example of customer-driven innovation. So I'd like to welcome Marcus from Finnish Rail and Oscar from Accenture, who are going to take us through the Finnish Rail example. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Markus Niskanen. I'm leading the IT development team in Finnish Railways.
Hey, my name is Oscar Elias, and I'm responsible for containers at Accenture.
Wow, Finnish Railways, the DockerCon. I have to say that I didn't see that coming a few years back. But anyway, I can tell you that during our 150 years in transportation business, we have been deploying quite a few containers, even before Docker. What is so cool about this new technology is that now with Docker on board, the containers are actually a really important thing in all of our business units. All right, a few numbers about our company. We have a turnover a little over €1 billion per year and more or less 8,000 employees. And Finnish Railways consists of 3 main business units, passenger traffic, logistics, and track. And the track builds tracks and maintains those. And train operations contains drivers and conductors and locomotives and stuff like that. And the maintenance takes care of our fleet. All right? And we don't do our coding ourselves in a Finnish Railways, so we use partners and vendors and stuff like that to do that. And Accenture has been one of our longest partnerships, and it goes all the way back to the early days of 90s, and when the services were more like microservices, actually, and mainframe apps and so on. And they have been also playing a big part of our current sales system and new mobile apps and so on. So why did we start the change is that mainly the reasons are pretty similar to other companies, that the costs and the agility and also the quality was the main player for us. The cost part is the single biggest reason. Business wants more bang for the buck, more infrastructure with the same amount of money, and it's a really common thing what you've been hearing around is during these days. And then the time to market is in our case, and I suppose that it's a similar thing with other companies who have a long history in a business. So that time to market is slow. We deploy back and forth those packages and instructions, and in good day scenario, the deployment it takes hours, and if something goes sideways, it could take days. So everybody knows that it's not good enough. And then the quality, we use vendors, we have tens of them doing the application development. So basically we don't have that good visibility. So what's happening actually there, how's the processes are going and what's happening in production and so on. So we want to improve that by automation, automating the testing and so on. So those were the drivers, and we have to build in a real world a business case around those. So you just can't go around in a boardroom and say that, give me some money, I will do some good stuff, I promise. The answer would be something along the lines, how about no? So we did build a business case where we took a look at our application portfolio, and then we did a little comparisons and sizing exercise with Oscar and so on, and we threw them back and forth and shared some ideas and came up with the number of 40%, and now that is a good business case, and that we did present in our board, and I'm telling you about this, and so it went well.
So we had a business case, right? And the business case, it pretty much wrote itself. 40-50% savings, let's do this. Let's do it right away. Let's not wait. However, the Finnish rail did not have the right container skills in-house. It would have taken them some time to build them. So it was a good opportunity for us, together Accenture, the Finnish rail, to continue our journey of innovation. And we wanted to help them, right? Let's do this right away. Why wait? We can get 50% savings right away. We introduced what we call the Accenture Container Migration Factory. So the idea here is that, in its very essence, we take an application, legacy, on whichever platform, application server, technology, we put in a container, write the Docker files, generate the compose files, and then we give it back, ready to be deployed on Docker Enterprise Edition. So this seemed to be a really good fit for what the Finnish rail was looking for. So what's the value proposition of the Container Factory? So it's built around these 4 key pillars. So cost efficiency. As I said, no need to build your own skills. We come in, we have the right skills, we have the right people, we have the right amount of people, and we can get started right away so that clients like the Finnish rail can start reaping those benefits, those cost savings pretty much from day one. The second thing is the skills, right? As I said, as Scott showed a few slides ago, we are an MTA partner. We've been training nearly 500 people by now by Docker on Docker Enterprise Edition. We have the people ready to start anytime with the right skills. They know the product. They know Docker Enterprise Edition very well, so they're ready to go. We manage the risks, so it's a centralized team doing all the migration. We take the risks, we manage them as opposed to having the risks split across multiple migration projects. And very, very important, repeatability. We do this in a very consistent, structured, and repeatable manner so that each migration is done in the same way. And then we can take the learnings from migrations and feed them in the subsequent ones so that they can be done even faster in a much more cost-efficient manner. So what are the main constituents of the migration factory? So, well, it's actually very simple. We bring in the so-called framework, right? This is the part about being repeatable and being structured. We provide the patterns, we provide the best practices that we have put together with Docker for Docker Enterprise Edition, so it's all optimized for the Docker EE platform. We bring base images whenever needed, and we provide the framework, the structure, the reference architectures also for Docker EE. At the same time, we need the people, right? So we bring in a team who knows Docker Enterprise Edition, a team who knows how to best leverage Docker EE's features to run those legacy applications, and then we get them to work together with the application teams and the framework to deliver those cost savings as fast as we can.
So how did we do it? Basically, the stages are pretty similar, what's been talking about here. So first we started with the proof of concept stage. We chose 3 victims in our portfolio and migrated those to the containers, and we had to see that if it's technically viable and also does our business case hold water. And it proved that it did, and then we expanded the factory idea to the other applications, and also the application platform was now in place, and we just expanded it, the knowledge of that to our other teams in Finnish Railways and also with other vendors. So we had a full frontal approach with the factory and the migrations. So, and the business case, how it turned out, we calculated that we had a cost savings of up to 50% at average. So that's huge. That's huge amount of money saved there. So that's business case passed with flying colors. But there was also a big upside for that. So now we have an unified architecture for the first time, basically, in our history. The application pipeline is similar to the old vendors and so on. So that's huge. And now we also have the visibility, which I was referring earlier there, that we have tens of vendors, so we don't actually know what's happening there. But now we do. Now we do have visibility there. We have the monitoring in place. We see how the CPUs are doing, the RAMs, how they are, and so on. So that's a very big thing also. And then we have as I said, we have the common architecture in place, so we have the application development pipeline for all the vendors. It's the same, so it's really easy to plug in and to start develop those applications. So basically what I'm saying that we started our migrations, and they are proceeding pretty well, and now the migrated applications and also the new ones are sitting comfortably in our new platform with Docker, and basically we are rocking and rolling with Docker now. Thank you.
So we heard in the Finnish Rail story, as well as in the demo modernization team story, the importance that partners play in the modernization journey. And they're key for several reasons. First, there are thousands of customers, each of which has hundreds, maybe thousands, and in the largest, tens of thousands of legacy applications that are begging to be modernized. And Docker can't do it alone. So we're really excited to have attracted a number of partners that which we've enabled with the process and methodologies you heard Ian and Brandon share earlier, so that they can work with you and be guides on the modernization journey. Second reason is that your environments are very complex. You have multiple stacks, multiple infrastructures you want to deploy your modernized legacy applications to. And partners bring choice. So you have flexibility to determine where to deploy. And finally, as you saw in Ian's talk, the modernization journey doesn't stop once the legacy apps are in production. In fact, quite the opposite. Now that they're deployed in production and in a modern platform, Docker Enterprise Edition, they're ripe for continuing to evolve, continuing to innovate, to augment and extend their core functionality with new services and new innovation. And partners bring that as well. And for that reason, we're really excited to share with you a new partner to the MTA program, and that is IBM. All right. IBM brings a lot of breadth and depth to the program. They bring IBM Global Services, their consulting arm, to help guide you on the modernization journey. They bring IBM Cloud and IBM Software as destinations for your modernized legacy apps. And they also bring, with IBM Cloud, new services, new innovations that you can use to augment and extend the functionality of your modernized legacy apps. To share more details, please join me in welcoming to the stage IBM's Jason McGee.
Thank you, Scott. We're really excited to be here. You know, IBM is a business that's built on relationships with our clients, relationships with our partners. And as an over 100-year-old tech company, we have a lot of relationships, and some of them go back a long way. The one that I want to talk about today is our relationship with Docker. Now, in the grand scheme of IBM, that's a young relationship. But in the world of containers, it's one of the oldest. We've had a relationship with Docker going back all the way to the beginning. IBM and Docker started working together in 2014. At the first DockerCon, IBM was the first enterprise partner for Docker, helping to bring container technology into the enterprise and providing unified support and expertise around the container space for our clients. That relationship blossomed over the last few years. IBM was the first public cloud provider to deliver a multi-tenant container service built on the community Docker engine. We've worked closely in the community to help evolve Docker technology with people like Phil Estes, who's a Docker captain, and many others at IBM who've been helping to evolve the core technology and helping work on things like the foundation of OCI and the governance models that we've built together around this technology. That relationship has grown this year. Earlier in the year, we announced work that we had been doing together to build multi-architecture support into Docker and to deliver the Docker enterprise stack on our Z-Linux mainframes and our power systems. And today, I'm really excited to talk about the next step in that relationship, the extension of our partnership around modernizing traditional applications. So today, we're going to talk about how we can combine Docker Enterprise Edition with IBM Cloud, with IBM Services, and with IBM software to help you modernize and extend those traditional applications that you're running in your enterprise today. Now, why IBM? You know, IBM is the enterprise company. Our whole mission has been about helping enterprises run their businesses, innovate, use technology to build competitive advantage. We've done that for over 100 years through every technology that's ever existed in the computing industry. IBM is used by 96 of the top 100 banks, by 23 of the 25 top US retailers, by 9 of the 10 top insurance agencies. I think you see a trend. We know the enterprise space, and we know the problems, and many of the applications that you've built that run your business are running on IBM systems and IBM software. So how do we do this? How do we work together to bring these applications into a modern platform to see the benefits of efficiency and agility that can be achieved using containers? I think there's kind of 3 things that we need. First, you need support for your existing software platforms, the software that runs your businesses today. Second, you need a modern cloud platform to move those applications to that combines the advantages of containerization with cloud so that you have a modern infrastructure on which to run those apps. And 3, you need someone to help you get there, someone with skill and expertise to help you start and continue your journey. So I'm excited to make our first announcement today, which is that IBM is announcing that our software is coming to the Docker store. This includes software like WebSphere, DB2, and MQ. And there's many other components and packages that are coming in the coming months. I just want to put that in context a little bit. You know, look at WebSphere Application Server is used by over 12,000 clients around the world, including most major large enterprises. WebSphere MQ is used by 85% of the Fortune 100, including every top bank, using that to run their messaging and integration applications that really form the backbone of how those businesses work. So having IBM software available in the Docker store, available in certified container images, makes it easy for you to take the applications that are built on those platforms and move them into a modern infrastructure. Step 2, you need a modern platform. And we believe that that modern platform is the IBM Cloud. The IBM Cloud is built for enterprises. It has a global footprint with data centers all around the world to allow you to run your workloads where you need them. It has an infrastructure built with security and compliance, performance and availability in mind. It has all of the capabilities you need at the infrastructure layer with containers and with higher level capabilities that you can use to not only run those applications, but to improve them, to improve their user experiences. So I'm excited to also announce that IBM and Docker are working together to deliver Docker Enterprise Edition for IBM Cloud. With Docker Enterprise Edition for IBM Cloud, you'll have a seamless path for creating a Docker environment on the IBM Cloud in a way that's properly integrated with our infrastructure, that plugs into the network and storage in the right ways, that's integrated with security and identity in the cloud, that's plugged into the logging, monitoring, and operational tools that you use in a cloud environment to monitor your infrastructure and your applications. And IBM and Docker are working together to build an optimized edition of the Docker Enterprise stack that runs really well in this platform. But one of the things I think is even more interesting is that once you have that infrastructure in the cloud on which you can run these applications, you also have at your fingertips a vast catalog of additional capabilities that you can use to extend those applications. The IBM Cloud has over 130 services that are available via the cloud as APIs that you can use to add capability to those apps, to add new user experiences, to modernize not only the platform that the app runs on, but the experience that your customers have using that app. And often you can do that without changing anything about the existing application. So you can use Watson to add cognitive capabilities to your app. You can use blockchain or IoT, add streaming video, add data and analytics capabilities, all through simple services that are at your fingertips to provision and leverage in your application. Now, we're at DockerCon, so it's no fun to talk unless we actually see real stuff. So let's take a demo and see this in action. All right. So of course, I've been running Pet Store for a while. Now, this is a really important application. And, you know, in a real enterprise, Pet Store is running on WebSphere. That's what people run their enterprise applications on. So let's see how we do that. So you saw yesterday the process of extracting that application from the existing environment, creating a Docker file that allows you to then deploy that stack on the cloud. So I won't take you through that process again, but now that IBM software is available in the Docker store, it's very easy to take that content and run it on the certified images that we provide so that that application is moved into the modern infrastructure using the stack you know today. So here's part of the Pet Store application. You can see that we're running this on top of the WebSphere Liberty image that's now available via the Docker store. Now, to do the actual deployment of this application, I need a cluster environment. I need a Docker environment on the IBM Cloud. So how do we do that? So let's go ahead and go through the process of creating that application on the cloud. Within IBM Cloud, we have a service called Schematics. Schematics is a service that lets you automatically provision templated environments in the cloud environment to stand up all of the VMs, storage, network, and other services that you need to run that environment. What we've done is created a template for Docker EE that starts the process of deploying a Docker cluster on that environment. So this is that template. If we look at the environment, we can see a basic description of the environment that we're going to set up and how it integrates with the cloud environment. To actually launch it is very simple. I can click Create. I can give the environment a name. And there's a few variables that I fill out to basically customize the environment, right? Where do I want to run this? What's the name of the swarm that I'm going to create? How many managers do I need? How many workers do I need? It's that simple to specify the basic shape of the environment that you want on the cloud. You click Create, and it will go through the process of provisioning that environment on IBM Cloud. Now, that takes a couple minutes. We don't want to have to wait for that. Oh, we lost my UCP console here. Here it is. So I have a cluster that was already up and running. So here we have Docker EE and the Universal Control Plane Console up and running on IBM Cloud. So it's very simple for you to get started. Now, once we have the cluster, of course, we can deploy the application. So I'm going to go do a Docker stack deploy of this application and get it up and running on that cloud. Now, running these applications on the cloud is interesting. What I think is really much more interesting is being able to add to them, to extend them. And so there's actually a little trick here that I haven't deployed just the pet store application, but I've actually deployed an extended version of that application. And let's talk about that. So, I think browsing for pets using a web interface is like very 2007. When I'm looking for pets and I'm walking around the world, I'm on my phone, and I don't really want to browse through a catalog. So wouldn't it be really cool if we could add a messaging interface to that pet store application? So I can interact with the pet store using my phone, using simple messaging. And it would be even really much more interesting if I could have that application help me find pets. If I'm walking through the city with my daughter and she sees like a cute little bunny on the side of the road, I know I'm going to have a conversation about how we need one of those, and we got to bring that home. So it'd be great if I could just take a picture of that and ask Pet Store to show me what's available within the store. So what we've done is we've built a new microservice that extends the Pet Store application with messaging and Watson to be able to automatically find pets based on images. And we've done this without changing anything about the Pet Store app at all. We've made no code changes whatsoever to the Pet Store application. We've deployed a new microservice in a Docker container on Docker EE. That new service uses two services from the IBM Cloud Catalog. It uses a partner service from Twilio that takes care of the interaction between the phone and the application, so I can send and receive messages. And Watson Visual Recognition, which is a service in IBM Cloud that knows how to process and recognize imagery, figure out what's in them. So I can literally send a picture to Watson, and it'll figure out that it's a pet, figure out what it is, what kind of pet it is, and give me data about what it sees in that picture. Right? By the way, Watson runs on Docker in IBM Cloud. All of our services run on Docker. So let's take a look at this real quick. So here's the compose file for this application. This looks a lot like the regular pet store one we've run. It has a web component and a database component. And here I've added an additional service which implements this messaging and image processing interaction for the application. And so we've deployed the extra microservice. That microservice uses Docker secrets to be able to connect to the Twilio account that I'm using and to Watson. So I have a secure way to pass the credentials for my services in cloud into the containerized application running on Docker. If I go back to my dashboard, did I close my dashboard? I really shouldn't do that, should I? So if I go back to my dashboard, you can see I have that stack deployed on the environment. I can click on that stack. I can look at the services, and I see that I have these three services running. Now, let's actually see how that works, right? If we switch over to the phone here, you see the phone? So I'm walking through the city. My daughter's yelling at me about this pet that she wants. I take a picture of it and send that off to the Pet Store application. At this point, Watson is receiving the application, it's processing it, and it's looking for what it can figure out about that image. It's figured out that it's a bunny. It sent me back some information from Pet Store saying, hey, we have a bunny. We have one called Rex. It's a red adult. It's 1850. It's available in the Pet Store. And I can see what's available in the store. So that's just a simple example of how we can take an existing application, transform it into containers, move it into the public cloud, and then take the services in that cloud and use it to extend that application. And in that case, we did it without any changes. And I think that's really the power of both the platform that we have with Docker and the platform that we have in IBM Cloud, is that you can combine your existing assets with new capabilities in a really simple and easy way. So what's the last step? So the last step in this journey is, hopefully, you're sitting there now thinking, how do I do this? How do I get started on this journey and take my applications and modernize them and extend them and add value to them? And that's really the third part of our story at IBM, is that we can help you. We can help you on this journey. So we're excited to join today the Docker MTA program. With IBM as part of the Docker MTA program, we can bring to you the vast experience that we have helping customers in their technology and transformation journeys. IBM Services is one of the largest professional services organizations in the world. We have over 125,000 consultants globally in 170 countries that speak 75 languages, that have worked on projects with every major industry at any level of complexity that you can imagine. We have skill and knowledge in Docker, and with our partnership and being part of the MTA program, we can help you easily, quickly understand the value of modernizing your apps. We can help you move those applications to the cloud, and we can help you take advantage of the powerful capabilities that are exposed there. So I'm really excited. This is the culmination of a lot of work between IBM and Docker and a great history together, and we really look forward to the amazing work we're going to do together with you. Thank you.
Nice job. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, IBM. And thank you, all MTA partners. Partners who are here to help guide you on the modernization journey, to offer you choice for where you land your modernized legacy apps, and to provide new innovation, new services to help you augment and extend those modernized legacy apps. So where does the MTA initiative go from here? What's the road ahead? Let's look into our crystal ball for a moment and see what could be. And a lot of the requests from partners and customers really distill into two categories: application types and automation tools. Application types stems from customers who have been through the program for their .NET Windows or their Java Linux, and sometimes we have some customers who have done both, and they're so excited by the results, those which we shared with you earlier, that they want to apply the modernization approach to other legacy applications in their environment. They've asked us to apply it to custom C and C++ applications, to packaged applications. Some customers are even asking us to apply it to COBOL applications, and many more to come. On the automation tools side, this is really coming from partners who have used our initial set of application conversion tools over these last 12 months to jumpstart the program and get going, and are asking for more to help with other aspects of the modernization journey, to help with things like discovery, dependency mapping, ROI tools, and many more. And both of these are all about enabling more and more traditional legacy applications to run on the Docker platform, and thereby being able to run on any infrastructure. And in doing so, that can be the start and help you bring in other application types, other workloads, as new projects, new initiatives, new technologies come on your radar. Microservices, ISV, commercial off-the-shelf software, serverless, IoT, big data, on and on and on. Any application, any infrastructure, one platform. Well, wrapping up, we shared with you this morning that the modernization program can bring revolutionary results. By modernizing your legacy apps, you can make them more portable, more agile, more secure, and save a ton of money, and plow that money back into new initiatives, new innovation, new ways to impact your businesses. We've shared that it's an evolutionary approach. that doesn't disrupt every aspect of your IT organization. That it's step by step, with each step being measurable, quantifiable. And finally, we've shared the key role that partners play in the program as guides on your modernization journey. To learn more, we have 2 great sessions today. First is a drill down on the Finnish rail use case you saw earlier this morning. The second is a drill down on the approach that Ian and Brandon shared with us. There are hands-on labs where you can use these methodologies and these automation tools to modernize sample legacy .NET and Java applications and deploy them onto modern infrastructure, Azure in this case. All the partners here that we've shared with you, they have booths in the exhibition hall, and they're eager to talk with you and share what they can do to help you on your modernization journey. We have a certification program where modernization plays a front and center role, both in terms of the approach as well as learning how to use the tools. And the team is here on site that can help you get started with that. And finally, the Docker team would love to meet you, hear about your projects, your initiatives, and help you get started on your own modernization journey. Thank you for listening. Have a great day too. Hygge!